It's Halloween, a holiday that's meant to be both fun and frightening. There are ghouls and ghosts, haunted houses, horror movies, plus the pumpkins, the costumes, the trick-or-treaters. So what's the appeal and the allure of celebrating something that's supposed to be scary? The psychology of Halloween, so to speak. Let's bring in Jim Davies. He's a professor of cognitive science at Carleton University in Ottawa. Jim, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Happy Halloween.
It's a strange celebration in a lot of ways. Happy Halloween to you. Your take on why we like Halloween. What do you think?
There are basically two reasons that we seek out these kind of scary experiences. One is that they are kind of exciting, so they get your heart rate up. And if you do that in an ultimately safe environment, then you kind of know that everything's fine. Part of your mind knows it's fine, but part of your mind doesn't. And so that tension raises your heart rate and is quite exciting and can release endorphins afterward. So that might be one reason, and that's similar to why people go onto roller coasters and that kind of thing.
So
And then,
is that like the fear factor?
you mean the TV show?
Yeah, no, but in other words, like the adrenaline rush, the fear factor, going into
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. So it just gets it gets you excited, right? So that's one of the reasons.
Tell me what the other ones are. Might be.
Yeah. So the other one is that we are naturally inclined to really pay attention to dangerous situations. So if you think about it, people will often rubberneck a traffic accident, or they will watch a fight that's happening across the street. And the reason that you do this is, because you think that it's important to learn from it. We are observational creatures. And when if you were to ask somebody, like, what are you hoping to see when you look at a car accident? Do you really want to see a mangled body? Like, they might not, but they can't look away. So we're sort of attuned to paying attention to dangerous situations so we can learn from them, right? And that's why even with like a horror movie, sometimes people will cover their eyes, but then they'll peek through, right? Because they can't stop because part of their mind really thinks it's important to pay attention to.
Yeah, we're showing Jack Nicholson, the classic film The Shining. And this idea of going to see horror movies, you know you're going to be scared. You know you may have to look away, and maybe that's part of the appeal, Jim.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a ultimate. Your mind, your like the conscious part of your mind knows it's a safe thing. It's just fiction, but most of your mind is interpreting what you see as real. Like when you see a person on the screen or a person in real life, a lot of your brain is reacting the same way, and you can attenuate your emotions by telling yourself it's just a movie, but it doesn't completely eliminate it, right? Like it's still going to be scary because part of your mind is still interpreting, is taking what it's seeing at face value. So having that sort of contrast is quite exciting and fun for people.
Hey, what about dressing up in costumes and sometimes wearing kind of really outlandish stuff? Sometimes you're dressed up as a killer or a murderer or a
Mm-hmm.
vampire or, werewolf, that kind of stuff. What's going on there, do you think?
Oh, yeah. That's a, there's a huge history in human culture of costume and this kind of thing, particularly associated with religion. There are like rites of terror and things where people will put on frightening masks and dance around. I think that it also plays into make believe. So young children, particularly, before the age of 5, they're very into playing make believe, and that is ultimately practice for how to interact with the world. But playing roles and taking on other roles and exploring things is always kind of inherently an interesting activity. You get to step outside yourself for a minute.
Yeah, well said. Jim Davies, he's a professor of cognitive science at Carleton University on the science of being scared. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween, Jim. Thank you.
Happy Halloween. Have a good one.